going on, guys? Welcome to my YouTube channel and to my first official YouTube video. Today we're going to be talking about the Bitcoin halving, some possible post-halving bullish bearish scenarios, and the Bitcoin stock to flow ratio. So without further ado, let's jump right in. So today marks the third Bitcoin halving since its creation, and the next Bitcoin halving will not happen again for another 1,458 days, or May 9th, 2024 approximately. That's subject to change based on the hash rate of the network and the difficulty of the algorithms. So it's all subject to change, but approximately May 9th is when the next Bitcoin halving will happen. And today, like I said, marks the third Bitcoin halving. And the block reward went from 12.5 Bitcoin to 6.25. So prior to today, the block reward for miners was 12.5 Bitcoin. If a miner successfully mined a full block and solved it, they would get 12.5 Bitcoin, either individually or split up if they're mining in a pool. And as of making this video right now, the current block reward is 6.25 Bitcoin. And on May 9th, 2024, approximately, that will be halved again, and it will go from 6.25 to 3.125. So if you're not quite sure on what a Bitcoin halving is, you're probably asking, what's the point of it, and why did Satoshi code this into Bitcoin's source code? So why was this done? As Bitcoins become scarcer and if demand for them increases over time, Bitcoin can be used as a hedge against inflation, as the price, guided by price equilibrium, is bound to increase. On the flip side, fiat currencies like the US dollar inflate over time as its monetary supply increases, leading to a decrease in purchasing power. So fiat currencies such as the United States dollar, over time it will quantitatively inflate, and Bitcoin, as a hedge against inflation, it wants to do the opposite. It wants to do what it's called quantitative hardening. So basic supply demand, if you have the same demand for the same amount of supply over time, and out of nowhere or at a predetermined date, that supply gets cut in half, but the demand remains the same, based on that alone, the value of the asset or product will automatically become, it will gain more in price. It will become more sought after just because that demand was cut in half. This is why Bitcoin has the halving encoded into its source code. And as of the time of making this video, the halving doesn't really have that much difference on the price. It doesn't have that much push on the price. If you're new to the space, you're probably thinking like, okay, well, once the halving happens, then we'll just skyrocket and go to the moon. But in the past two halvings, nothing really happens. It's a very lackluster event. Nothing much happens. We'll go sideways for a while, and one of two things are going to happen. We can just go up or down. It's all speculation. What could happen, we'll have a fake out from the bears. Get anyone who came to the space just because of the halving, they'll get shaken out real quick. Or, we never know. Bitcoin is an anomaly. We can always just go straight to the moon. Highly doubt that, but you probably won't see much price action movement for another, I'd say, 8 to 18 months from now. But all of this is just speculation. So if you take a look at this is a Bitcoin stock to flow model live chart, and this chart was created by Plan B. He's over on Twitter. He manages a hedge fund, and he created this Bitcoin stock to flow model chart. And this is kind of just a tool to see where Bitcoin could or possibly could be in the future. And as you see, it's pretty bullish. It goes up pretty high. It goes up to right here over to 1 million, and shortly 100,000 in just under a year. I wouldn't take this as, just take this with a grain of salt, but it's a really cool concept, and it goes into detail like on what it is and how does it work. So the Bitcoin stock to flow is a number that shows how many years at the current production rate are required to achieve the current stock. The higher the number, the higher the price. And you can go in on your own onto digitalic.net/BTC, and you can see exactly how this stock to flow chart was created using mathematical equations. But it's a pretty good tool. You get to see possibly speculate and daydream on possibly where the price of Bitcoin could go in just a few short years, and less than 10 years from now. So as I just said, today was the third Bitcoin halving, and we just witnessed history. Bitcoin just experienced its third halving in its history. So since the first Bitcoin block was generated back in 2009, there have been 3 halving events taking place once every 210,000 blocks are mined, or approximately once every 4 years. As Bitcoin halving cuts the current miner block reward by 50%, the first Bitcoin halving took place in 2012, cutting the original block reward from 50 to 25. The second was in 2016, from 25 to 12.5. As Bitcoin's supply is only limited to 21 million coins, Bitcoin halving events should continue to take place until the year 2140, or until the 21 millionth Bitcoin is mined. By that time, the block reward should reach 1 Satoshi, which is known as the smallest unit of a Bitcoin, at 0.000000001 Bitcoin. So here's some possible bullish, bearish scenarios for Bitcoin. So following the 20% drop, which we can see here, and this happened on May 9th. So just a crazy whale dump across the crypto market. And this is nothing new. This is to be expected. In terms of recent pumps, there has to be a cool off period. So anytime we pump up, we have to cool down. You can't just go straight to the moon. It's not how it works. So 20% drop. So we're in a cool off period, but following the 20% drop, traders remain divided on whether Bitcoin price would go where it would go next, believing that some traders believe that Bitcoin could immediately see an upsurge to 14,000 or to 15,000. But the primary bullish scenario following the block reward halving is a breakout of a major trend line above the $14,000 mark. If the current Bitcoin momentum is overwhelmingly strong and breaks out to the multi-year trend, there's a possibility that it will trigger a major uptrend. So this is definitely good news. And for those who've been in the space for a while, we know that the 14,000, 15,000 price marks are very, very critical. It's where Bitcoin has its most resistance at after $10,000. And the bearish scenario in the short term is several cryptocurrency traders anticipate Bitcoin's price to drop to as low as 6,500. There are strong arguments to be made for a temporary bearish price trend after the halving. So this is also very likely that we could definitely see Bitcoin go from 8,600 to well lower. Even though it's bearish, it should be considered as good news. That's just getting Bitcoin at a discount, because right now we're trading at $8,666, and to get some more Bitcoin at a much lower price, it's probably gonna be the last time we see these prices for a long time, if not indefinitely. So even though it's bearish news, I'm still optimistic that we do hit lower levels just to accumulate more Bitcoin in the long term. Bitcoin crosses the $9,000 mark as Tudor Jones confirms a 1% Bitcoin portfolio. So for those of you who don't know who Tudor Jones is, he is a hedge fund manager with a net worth of $5.1 billion speculative as of 2020. and he came out to say that he has between 1 to 2, closer to 2% of Bitcoin in his portfolio. And he said, describing that cash was a wasting asset in your hand due to the current rate of inflation. He told CNBC that Bitcoin represented at least 1% of his total assets, and it could also be closer to 2%. So to a normal average Joe, 1 to 2% isn't that much, but you take his net worth and do 1 to 2% of 5.1 billion, that's a significant amount. That's still a lot of money, and it's very bullish to see a really big hedge fund manager such as Paul Jones at least have some hand into the crypto space, at least have some Bitcoin in his portfolio. So this is a Bitcoin hash rate historical chart. And this shows the hash rate. This shows the hash rate of the Bitcoin network. It shows how many miners and the strength of the hash rate of the Bitcoin miners on the network way at Bitcoin blocks. And I wanted to show this to give some perspective. So during the 2017-2018 bull run, where Bitcoin hit right under $20,000 in 2018, this is where we were at. This is where we were at the peak of the bull run for the Bitcoin miner hash rate. Fast forward 2 years from now, we're all the way up here. We're all the way about 130 exahash, and down here, like, we were just in the tens, but over here we're in the 130s. That's insane. And if we go over to this website on buybitcoinworldwide.com, we can see how long the Bitcoin network has been up. And it's been up for, it's been functional for 99.985% of the time since its inception on January 3rd, 2009. And the only times they were ever down were 2 times. So take this and this for what you will. We're at all-time highs for the Bitcoin hash rate, and as a percentage, the Bitcoin network has been up for 99.985% of the time. I wanted to end this video on a really good bullish note. So even though 20% price dump and we're currently trading sideways, and we can definitely go to the downside or to the upside, but regardless, I wanted to end this video on a very bullish note. So if you're ever doubting about investing in crypto or Bitcoin, if you ever should pull out or stay in, just zoom out, get a better perspective. Just zoom out and look at the Bitcoin logarithmic chart. Like, we're currently on an uptrend trajectory, and there's no reason why we can't go even further. So like I said, if you're ever feeling doubt, just zoom out, look at the bigger picture. Short-term price action movements should be nothing to be worried about. If anything, you should be happy the price is dropping. That way you can just accumulate more Bitcoin. So like I said, ever in doubt, zoom out. Always just look at the stock to flow ratio and just daydream about the day that Bitcoin hits $100,000 and possibly even hits $1 million for Bitcoin. So that pretty much sums up my first YouTube video. Tell me your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like if you liked it, hit the dislike if you dislike it. If you want to see more of my content in the future, hit the subscribe button. And tell me your thoughts in the comments. What do you think we're going to be going from now in terms of short-term price action movement? Do you think we're going to go to the moon? Do you think we're going to go to the downside? Do you think that we're going to hit another Bart Simpson pattern and just trade sideways? Before I go, I wanted to leave this piece of advice. In the terms of crypto lark, stack, sats, and chill, dollar cost averaging is your friend. Put $50 in Bitcoin a week, 100, whatever your number is. Don't overextend your assets. I'm not a financial advisor, but when in doubt, dollar cost average, stack, sats, and chill. So thank you again for watching my video, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.